In today's episode, we're going to be covering 18 of my most anticipated board games of 2025. My name is Nick Murray, and you are listening to the Bitewing Games podcast. A new year is upon us, and the churn of new board game releases relentlessly tempts hobbyists one and all. You can either flee from it, or you can welcome it with open arms. I'm the open arms type, so come peruse my most anticipated board games of 2025. This list will be roughly ordered by date of release for convenience. Note this list will also include a few titles published by us here at Bitewing Games. I'll mention it when we get to them, because why wouldn't I be excited about those? So first, most anticipated game on my list is the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. This has an expected release date of January 17th, 2025, and I must confess, I already own this game, and I've played it quite a few times, but that's only because I picked up an early copy at PAX Unplugged before its retail release in January. If you like the sound of The Crew, more specifically cooperative trick-taking, within the Lord of the Rings narrative, then this is probably right up your alley. Stay tuned for more of my thoughts on this game very soon. Another anticipated game for me is Power Vacuum, expected to release in February. Trick-taking meets political power grabs between anthropomorphic household appliances? I'm in. This game sounds supremely wacky and social for a trick-taker. Another game I'm looking forward to is Azul Duel, expected to release in the first quarter of this year. Just when I say I'm out, they know how to draw me back in. Azul was already an amazing game for two players, so a dual version wasn't necessarily needed, but usually dual means a more focused, interactive, and intentional experience for two players. Most of the Azul spin-offs have been less interactive and less tense, so hopefully this one takes things in the opposite direction. Another game I'm excited about is Freeguard. I think that's how you say it. It's expected to release in the first or second quarter of this year. Freeguard sees Impatience, publisher of the acclaimed Onirim solo series, teaming up with Reiner Knizia, designer of my favorite solo series, the 4-1 series, for a 15-minute, deceptively simple game of risk-taking and hand management. Say no more, except for exactly when I can pick this up. Another anticipated game is Kalimala, expected to release in March 2025. It's never ideal when a game ends up on my most anticipated games of the year list 2 years in a row. In the case of Kalimala, its timeline ended up being delayed by 6 whole months. Regardless, I'm still looking forward to this one when it finally releases. Here's what I said about it last time. Kalimala is another reskinned edition of a game I've played and discussed in the past. This one originally hit my table at a time when I was burnt out on beige Euro games, with generic themes and presentations, and my initial thoughts on the game certainly reflected that mood. Ultimately, this was one design that I purged from my collection, but I never quite purged it from my mind. Something about the bitey gameplay lingered with me, and I'm thrilled to see that it will soon break free of its original look with a new presentation from Ian O'Toole. I'm hoping that this new version will help me uncover a newfound love for the clever Kalimala. Another game I'm excited about is Iliad, expected to release in April. And notably, this is published by us at Bitewing Games. It's going to be another killer year for fans of two-player only games. One major reason why is because 2025 will see the grand debut of our Mythos collection, two-player games of strategy and mythology. As huge fans and evangelists of so many great two-player games, we are thrilled to finally be contributing to this genre of legends. In many ways, Iliad reminds me of Lost Cities and Battle Line or Schotten in how it is such a tight, tense, and elegant Knizia game of hand management and competitive dueling. It felt like an instant classic the moment Reiner created it and pitched it to us. I'm excited for folks to get a chance to compete for the favor of the gods as Hector versus Achilles in Iliad. And as is the case with all of our Bitewing titles, you can pre-order Iliad on our website. Head over to bitewinggames.com and click the shop button. Speaking of Mythos games, I'm also excited for Iker, also coming out in April by us here at Bitewing Games. Our Mythos collection is fittingly coming in waves of two killer titles at a time. Iker has quickly become my favorite abstract strategy game ever. The concept of moving your figures around like rooks in a race to leave behind a trail of all your tokens first is super slick and refreshing, and the infinitely combined asymmetric powers of Greek gods and monsters lead to gripping new opportunities and challenges every time. The expansion, releasing alongside Iker, is also fun to dive into. It offers 8 more characters and a powerful gate tile module. Another game on my list is Magical Athlete, expected to release in the second quarter of this year. CMYK is a publisher who rarely, if ever, misses, and one of their next releases will be a new version of Magical Athlete with development updates by Richard Garfield, creator of Magic: The Gathering. This chaotic roll-and-move racing game has been on my bucket list for years because I hear it is a delightfully silly game. It appears that CMYK is definitely preserving that spirit by the looks of the teased art style. Speaking of games with childlike wonder, Toy Battle is another one on my list, expected to release May 2nd, 2025. I'm always on the lookout for the next release from designer Paolo Mori, and Toy Battle, also co-designed by Alessandro Zucchini, appears to be his next big 2-player dueler. Seeing how this game is 15 minutes long and coming from publisher Repo Production, known for 7 Wonders, So Clover, Just One, and more, I get the vibe that this will be a very approachable experience. Paolo isn't the only favorite designer of mine putting out an exciting game next year. We also have Line of Fire Burnt Moon, expected to release June 10th, 2025. This spin-off game of the Undaunted series fuses the beloved deck building of its predecessors with fast-paced lane battling. For a 30-minute game with presumably an easier setup and teardown, this has the potential to become my favorite game in the Undaunted universe. That is Line of Fire Burnt Moon. Oh baby, here's a hot game for me. Silos, expected to release in July 2025, published by us here at Bitewing Games. Between his 2 Mythos games, this Cosmic Silos trilogy, and another trick still hidden up our sleeve, this may very well go down as one of Reiner Knizia's best years ever. The reason I say that is because in 2025, we are releasing 5 of my top 20 favorite Knizia games out of the 200 that I have played. This entire trilogy feels unlike anything else that Reiner Knizia has ever created, aside from Unicippium and Beowulf the Legend, the 2 games that inspired Silos and Ego, of course. The game Silos, which stands for Secret Interlopers from Outer Space, is a 3-pronged area majority game where players are competing to abduct cows and humans, brainwash Earthlings, and invade a town. Unlike most area majority games, Silos is not a competition for the most points. Instead, it is a race for societal power by collecting 5 sets of humans first. It feels much more dynamic and shifting than your standard game of this genre. Players will constantly be repositioning their figures to set up for the next big invasion event, that is Silos. Releasing alongside that, also in July, is Ego, published by us as well. Ego, which stands for Extraterrestrial Greeting Organization, evokes a feeling of adventure that I've never seen in another game. That's largely thanks to the series of cosmic events you'll progress through together. As you visit various alien civilizations, you'll try to outcompete rival ambassadors by offering more gifts or being more persuasive in epic game of chicken auctions. You'll often be tempted to take big risks, at least until you realize how badly you've offended the aliens. And rounding out this trilogy that I'm excited about is Orbit, also releasing from us in July. Orbit stands for Orbital Race Between Interstellar Tourists, and it's a refreshingly unique race of riding planets along their orbital paths as you zigzag between them. While many of the decisions are highly tactical, you'll also have to decide whether it is worth slowing down to upgrade your ship for a later comeback. Orbit is one of our most approachable big box games yet, making it perfect for any combination of hobbyist and casual gamers. And as a reminder, these games are available for pre-order on our web store. Moving on, let's look at Regicide Legacy, expected to release in the second or third quarter of this year. I'll be honest, I did not do much research on this game back when I pledged for it. I suppose my love of Regicide made me blindly trust this team to make a killer legacy game based on this concept. As long as it still plays smoothly and offers a similar tension as Regicide, I'll be a happy camper. I'm also looking forward to Alibis, expected to release in the third quarter of this year. I've had the pleasure of trying Alibis, and it has only made me more excited to eventually acquire my own copy. Alibis is basically So Clover, a cooperative word association party game on a shared board. Each player must come up with one alibi or a word clue linking the two suspects who they know are innocent. All players will share their alibi and then must guess which characters everyone else's alibis connect to. By ruling out suspects correctly, the table will be able to narrow it down to the one guilty character who has no alibi. Releasing alongside Alibis in the third quarter will be Merchants of Andromeda. So after I acquired Reiner Knizia's old game Merchants of Amsterdam, it sat unplayed on my shelf for months before I eventually sold it. What kind of sicko would do such a thing? One with insider trading information, that's who. Once I heard that Allplay was developing a new version of the game, the burden of playing my ugly old copy was lifted from my shoulders. It's important to emphasize that this is not simply a reskin of Merchants of Amsterdam. The core concept of the Dutch auction, a bid amount that winds down until somebody loses their nerve and stops the countdown to claim the reward first, is the most interesting part of this design. And that part has been preserved in Andromeda via a reverse Schwazi app, where the first player to take their finger off the smartphone wins the auction. The key is to not overplay for rewards while securing the most important ones for yourself. The problem with Merchants of Amsterdam is that everything surrounding the Dutch auction was pretty dry and dull. But with Andromeda, all of the competitions and minigames have been completely reworked by Robert Hovakimian, designer of our own Bebop and Shuffle and Swing, effectively making him a co-designer of this old Knizia game. And to you Knizia purists who worry that Reiner's precious design has been contaminated by another, I say this: go play Bebop, a supremely Knizian-esque game, and then tell me if any other developer was better suited for this task. Sci-fi fans and Knizia fans will be eating well this year. We've got 2 more games on my list, starting with Animal Rescue Team, expected to release in October of this year. Shut Up and Sit Down is diving into the publishing waters by collaborating with Play to Z on a line of games titled Shut Up and Sit Down Presents. My understanding is that Shut Up and Sit Down are helping select, develop, and provide art direction for these games. My hope is that their trained critical eye will help them put out some truly excellent games. Animal Rescue Team, a cooperative game from Matt Leacock and Lisa Towell, is their debut title. Here's the overview. You and your friends will puzzle out the perfect rescues of creatures big and small. One game might have you arriving just in time to save a coop of distressed chickens, and another may have you fruitlessly trying to rescue a cow with a motorcycle, or cursing yourselves for unfortunate horse logistics. And finally, the last game on my most anticipated list of 2025, at least until we do part 2 halfway through the year, is Dogs of War 2nd Edition, expected to release in the final quarter of this year. Dogs of War has been on my top 100 games of all time list for years, but this tug-of-war romp has been woefully out of print for far too long. 2025 is the year where dreams come true with Dogs of War 2nd Edition. This new edition will be overseen by the team at Shut Up and Sit Down, who promise to make it the definitive version by packing more punch with a lower price. You'll love to hear it. And that's going to round out my most anticipated board games of 2025 list. Hopefully something here caught your attention or ended up on your radar, and no doubt there are plenty more that we don't know about yet. I am very excited about what's coming up this year. Not only are we putting out these 5 Knizia games that were successfully crowdfunded, but we have a couple more really epic projects up our sleeve as well. If you want to follow along with our announcements and reveals, then be sure to subscribe to the Bitewing Games newsletter. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Nick Murray, and you've been listening to the Bitewing Games podcast.